Chapter 3. The Golden Touch. Once upon a time, there lived a king who was extremely greedy and fond of gold. His name was Midas. He had a lot of wealth in his treasury, but he was always unhappy. "I want more gold and wealth. I want more and more," Midas lamented. "I wish I had the golden touch," he thought. Midas thought that if he had the golden touch, he could touch anything and make it of gold. One day, King Midas was counting his gold coins in the treasury. He heard someone call out his name. He went to his throne hall. A fairy appeared before him. "King Midas, you are a noble man. I grant you two boons. What do you want?" Without thinking, King Midas quickly said, "I want the golden touch so that everything I touch turns to gold." The fairy granted King Midas the golden touch. King Midas was so joyful to get his wish that he forgot to ask for the second boon. The fairy vanished. The king quickly went for a morning stroll in the royal garden. He touched the vase, the tree and fence. Everything turned into gold. King Midas was thrilled. He entered the palace full of excitement. He sat down to eat breakfast. The king picked up an apple to cut with a knife. The apple immediately turned into gold. The king could not believe his eyes. "How will I eat any food or drink water now? I am starving and I am thirsty too." King Midas had a daughter named Marigold. Seeing her father at the dining table, she came running and threw her arms around him. Marigold turned into gold as soon as King Midas hugged her back. The king was struck with shock and horror. His heart sunk. He began to weep. King Midas held his daughter's golden statue and repented that he had wished for the golden touch. He realized that greed was his biggest fault. He called out to the fairy. The fairy reappeared before the king. She took pity on his condition. "You have a second boon left to ask for," the fairy reminded the king. King Midas pleaded to the fairy to take away the boon. The fairy took away the golden touch. The fairy told the king to sprinkle the royal pond's water on the things that he wanted to change back to normal. The king followed what the fairy advised him to do. He sprinkled the water on Marigold, and she was normal again. The king was delighted to see his beloved daughter back. The king and his daughter bid goodbye to the fairy. Then together they sprinkled water on the golden things and restored them to their original. The king pledged to himself, "I will never be greedy again.